Okay, here we are, and we're ready to start setting up the machine to actually do the stitching. There are I would say three ways, that's kind of high level, that you can quilt a quilt on a long arm. The first is free motion, which is basically um, you draw with the machine and you fill in. That's a form of custom quilting. I can't. It's kind of hard to do that with right now because the gears of this machine are kind of engaged. I can disengage those and it frees up the machine to allow me to do whatever I want. I don't free motion. Um, I'm I'm not a doodler. That's kind of what you have to think of it like. Free motion is like doodling on a quilt, just drawing little random things. Although there are some very distinct um, designs and patterns you can do with free motion. There's swirls and feathers and all of these things. There are lots and lots of fantastic custom free motion quilters in our area alone. The one that comes to mind first is Angela Walters of Quilting is My Therapy. You can look for her. She has a YouTube channel and I think she has a website. She's local. She lives in works in Liberty, Missouri. She has a shop up there, and she is a handy quilter dealer. But lots of other people are great at custom as well. The lady that did my Windy Days quilt in the background has also done in the past custom quilting. She doesn't do it as much as she used to, but Nancy is a really, really great free motion quilter as well. The second way you can custom quilt a quilt is to use your computer system to set up different sections of your quilt and bring in a digital design and fill that area. Like on this one, if I wanted, I could take sections of the dress and mark this area out and fill it with a custom, a digital design. I could do that for all of the background, and fill it that way. Not what I'm planning to do here. I'm going to do a method or a design choice called edge to edge quilting. It's kind of what it sounds like. You set your machine up and you tell it where you want it to start and how far it needs to go. It'll go clear down to the other edge of the quilt and fill this space, and then I have to roll, like I showed in a previous video, I have to roll the quilt forward to get some more blank space for it to fill up. It is not, as some people would have you believe, a set and forget kind of deal. You basically tell the machine what to do, but you do have to monitor it. I can walk away once I see how it's doing and how it's stitching, if the tension on the thread is good and everything. I can walk away and go in the sewing room and do a few little things, but I'm always listening for it to be working. If you run out of if the bobbin on the machine runs out, the machine will just keep going. It just won't be stitching anything, and you have to come back and find where it stopped and ran out of thread and all of that. So it is not, a completely automated set it up and you just go do whatever you want to do until the quilt's done. It doesn't advance itself, and it doesn't cut threads and do all that. So the next thing I would have to do is make a thread choice here. And I've got some options to do. We turned the light down on the machine because it was so bright it was blowing the camera out. But as I was basting the other day, I discovered that the thread I have on the machine to do the basting with actually is probably the thread I'm going to go with. Typically what I do is, if the thread on the machine is pretty high contrast, I baste with that so I can see where to take it out when it's time to take these horizontal stitches out. But as it passed over the flesh toned pieces of fabric, I noticed that it blends in pretty well. You can see the stitching, but it's not just glaringly sticking out here. And even into this part of the quilt, it's not showing up very much. So I pulled some off and kind of tested it. You kind of puddle your threads out here on top. I also purchased a purchased a yellow color thinking that, you know, it's going to blend into the background really well, but when I stack it on top of the flesh tone, it's really going to jump out. It would have done great on any other part of the quilt as well. And then I have one other color here that that I could use. I'm not going to get that out. I think I'm going to go with the color that's on the machine. I've even kind of tested it on the backing as well, and I think it will be just fine. If it isn't, I've got another color I can use for that. So we've got our thread choice made. It's called Sesame Seeds, by the way. And so the next thing I have to do is tell the machine where it can quilt. On the Moxies, the computer setup is called Pro Stitcher Lite. So every time I do a quilt, I have to tell it how much frame space I have. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up that space for, and it's going to go, I hit the button called frame space, boom, and it gives me a ding. It sounds like The Price is Right. And I have to come all the way over here, clear to the edge of the fabric, and I hit it again. And when I hit this, now I have this big dark red box here that tells me that's basically a drawing of this area of the machine. Then I have to tell the machine how big the quilt actually is, or how much of the quilt I want to have stitching in. So I've made a little mark on my batting here, a dot, and we're calling this the area of the quilt. And so I hit a button called two corner, like that, different ding, and I come all the way over here just past the edge of my quilt. I tend to go just past the edge of the quilt, and then I can do, and so it says my quilt is 60.65 inches wide and it's 12 inches high. Well, we know it is way longer than 12 inches high. It's actually 80 something. So I'm just going to go in here and tell it 81. And now I have a big pink box, and that's basically a drawing of my quilt on my screen. So what I'm going to do now is go in and pick my pattern. And I'm telling it to open. And truly, we're looking at a computer. We're working on a computer. So I'm going to do, where is it? It's called, this one called Fanfare. I had a couple of choices. I was either going to do this peacock feather. I'll open that. I'll open that and you can see what it looks like. I'm afraid because this quilt is so linear, once you fill that up, it's going to be these long lines of this. So I thought I decided I wanted to do something that had a little bit more movement. So I'm using one called Fanfare. And that's actually Nancy, the lady I took my quilts to, actually did that on one of my other quilts. So I'm going to do some adjusting here to make sure it's the right size to fit in my space, and some other things before I actually set the pattern up. So we'll pause just a second and we'll be right back. So I have decided that my design is the right size. It's the size I want it to be. So we're going to come in and build this to fill up my quilt. So there's a button here called fill. Boom, look at that. And so, but you see it doesn't go all the way into the pink part. So I'm gonna add some horizontal repeats like that. Oops, one more. And then I'm gonna hit vertical and I'm going to add those, but I'm also going to close the spacing between those rows. You see it's shrinking up there, like that. And so now I need to add some more rows. One more. Okay. So see, all my little rows go outside of that pink box. So this time I'm going to hit a command there to tell it, now it's gonna hold on to that design like that. Then I have to tell it to do some other things so it just fits inside my area. I'm gonna crop it like a picture. And I'm doing the outside of it. And see all the little green things, green and red dots around there. That means the machine will start and stop at all those places and I would have to trim threads. So I'm gonna tell it to clean up my edges by doing that. And now I just have a start point on this side and end points on this side. And so actually the pattern is ready to go, but I'm not ready to quilt right now. So I'm gonna hit my little baseline button there, and then I'm going to tell it, just like if I was making a document on my computer, I'm not ready to use it yet, but I want to make sure everything is the way I want it when I come back to it. So I'm going to tell it to save that. And did I tell it what I wanted it to do? And then I have to tell it where I want it to go. Oh, my saved designs. That's where I want it to go. And I have to tell it, I have to name it. So I'm going to call it, since the name of the quilt is Soiree, that's what I'm going to call the file. S-O-I-R, oops, backspace, R-E-E space. Soiree Fanfare Edge to Edge. That way it doesn't overwrite the original pattern, because that would be bad. I'm going to save it. Ta-da! It's saved. And now I'm going to go back and check just to make sure it went where I wanted it to go. My saved designs. There it is right there. You can't really tell that's what it is, but it's there. Okay. So, cancel that. Now I'm just gonna close it. And I'm ready to shut the machine down. And when I come back tomorrow or whatever day I decide to do this quilting, I just come in, I put the machine where I want it to start, and I bring the pattern, I open the pattern up, and it will line up right there at that start point where I have my needle. It will line up right there, and I can begin quilting. So, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with us. I know this is a long, drawn-out process. So the next time you see me, we're going to start quilting this quilt. All right. See you later.